Well, it's official. A darkness has fallen across America. Donald Trump is now President of the United States. We now literally have a criminal in the White House. And we will now enter a very dark and dangerous period for this country. In fact, Donald Trump is president, but he is not a legitimate president. The Constitution actually forbids Donald Trump from being president. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment specifically disqualifies anyone who has done what Donald Trump has done from ever holding federal office again. He is disqualified by the 14th Amendment from being president. But as I have said many times, the Constitution cannot enforce itself. No law, no Constitution can enforce itself. We depend upon the people we elect and put in positions of power and authority to uphold their oaths to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution to do so. That's the only way the Constitution is enforced. And time and again, those people in those positions of authority refuse to do so. And now we very literally have an illegitimate president of the United States who nevertheless occupies that office and will now exercise that awesome responsibility and that power. I watched Donald Trump take the oath of office, an oath that he will now over and over again violate. He has no intention whatsoever of keeping that oath. I watched his speech. I didn't want to, and I debated it. But ultimately, I decided that it was part of my job. I feel an obligation to you to watch it so that I could report to you anything that I think worthy of talking about from that speech. And I'm not going to talk about it in a lot of specificity. I will talk about it a little bit. But before I get to what that detestable, illegitimate president said, I wanted to talk about some of the things that were said in the lead up to his speech. Because there were speakers before Trump took the oath of office who did the typical kind of talking about our values and our history and the founding of our country and peaceful transfer of power and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Amy Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar, gave some extended remarks. I was actually, when I first saw her, I was pretty annoyed that she would voluntarily speak at this thing. Then I realized, she introduced that she was the chair of the inaugural committee and has been serving in that capacity for the last year. So she kind of didn't have a choice. So I give her a pass on that. And in her remarks, again, she talked about our ideals and our founding principles and the solemn occasion that this was and how the peaceful transfer of power, separates us and makes us special and all that kind of thing. And I heard other speakers talk about our democratic ideals and founding principles. And it just sounded like a lie, all of it, given who it is that we were swearing in, who will now lead this country. A man who has violated every one of those founding principles, every one of our ideals. And then we're going to celebrate this man? The whole thing just felt wrong. It felt deceitful, like we're all just there lying to ourselves about this whole thing. And as I'm listening to the flowery language about our founding principles, I thought about some of the things that those founders who created our system of government, who gave us this constitutional republic, some of the things they actually warned us about. And they told us when they wrote the Constitution, they warned. Benjamin Franklin, famously, as he left the Constitutional Convention, a woman approached him and said, "Dr. Franklin, what have you given us?" And he said, "A republic if you can keep it." And from that moment, and many others gave the same warnings. In the Federalist Papers, they talked about it. That this system we have, it's not perpetual. It's not guaranteed perpetual existence. That each generation has to protect it and fight to keep it. That is, there's no guarantee that it will forever sustain itself. And not just the founders, but great leaders since then have warned repeatedly. Abraham Lincoln warned that if America is to be destroyed, it will be destroyed from within by our own hand. Ronald Reagan talked about how freedom is not guaranteed. We don't pass it to future generations in the bloodstream. You have to fight for it. You have to fight to preserve it, or you lose it. And on November 5th, the American people put us in a position where now we run the very real risk of losing this whole thing. And to see the parade of people walking into the rotunda, all these politicians, former presidents, going through the motions, going through the ceremony, many of them yucking it up. Many of these same people I saw, just big smiles on their faces, had warned us all that Donald Trump was a serious threat to democracy. Well, if that's so, how the hell can you stand there and applaud this man? What we need to do going forward, to the best of our ability, because I'm not, let me say this. These are very, very dark times and dangerous times. And I view my responsibility here to bring you information and analysis and bring my perspective for the purpose of informing you about things that I think are important, with an eye towards preserving this republic. Because although things are bad, we haven't lost it all yet. It's not looking good right now. We're in a bad place because we are surrounded in this country by unserious people who take this all for granted, don't even bother to educate themselves. They cast votes for nonsensical reasons. For a lot of them, politics is just pure entertainment. Just a big damn joke. So we're surrounded by unserious people who have no idea what they've just done to this country. But it's not over. And from my point of view, this is a day of mourning. And it's a day to also recognize that a new fight now begins. And I view my role here, my job, is to keep you informed and inspired to the best that I can, to keep you inspired to fight for what we still have. and to improve what we have, because great damage has already been done. And so that's what we need to do. What choice do we have? If we can't just give up. If we've been through harder things before. This country has come through much more difficult things before. So we can't just give up. I'm not going to give up. What we need to do is, to the best of our ability, preserve what we have, defend what we have, keep Donald Trump from doing fundamental damage to this country. And keep this in mind. I'll leave you with this, I guess. I'll have a lot more to say, but I'll leave you with this for now. Donald Trump will do great damage, but any policy he puts in place, any executive order he signs, even any law passed by Congress, all those things can be undone. In fact, executive orders are the easiest to undo. The next president can just undo every single executive order Donald Trump signed with the stroke of a pen. Now, some of the damage that will have been done pursuant to those executive orders and things that Donald Trump does, policies he puts into place, some of the actual damage caused can never be undone. Damage caused to individual people who will suffer as a result of Donald Trump being president. Some of that can't be undone. Some of that damage will be lasting. But the policies can be undone. And so Donald Trump is not going to be president forever. So we need to, I think it's perfectly understandable if people want to just check out today and take this as a day of mourning, in a sense, for what has happened to this country today, the dark period we now enter. But we need to start fresh. We need to dust ourselves off. Recognize that tomorrow is a new day. Put this spectacle of today behind us and fight back to the best of our ability, and to preserve what we have until we can get ourselves in a position where we can stop this and reverse it. I don't know when that will be or how long it will take us to get there, but we can get there. And so I think that's what we need to do. Recognize that we are on the verge of losing all of this, but we haven't lost it yet, and we don't have to. And I've said this before, that Donald Trump, one of the things that we have going for us is that Donald Trump is an idiot. And he is. He is a very stupid person. And he is surrounded by people who are not as stupid as he is, because that's almost impossible. But they are very, very full of themselves. And they will misread their mandate. Donald Trump is not a popular incoming president. In fact, I saw a video of Donald Trump's motorcade arriving at the Capitol, driving through the streets of Washington. And the streets were empty. There weren't people lining the streets to welcome the newly elected president. There was no outpouring of goodwill for this man. This man is an historically unpopular incoming president. And I think right now he is at the height of his popularity. He is at the height of his power, I hope. And it can and may be all downhill for him from here. If he does the things that he says he's going to do. Actually, I said I was going to wrap this up. I should probably talk a little bit more, not too much longer, about what he actually said in his speech, because he talked about some of the things that he's going to do. and it's things you've heard before, most of which he's not going to be able to accomplish. He said he's going to order his department heads to focus on reducing inflation, eliminating inflation and reducing the price of everything. That's not going to happen, because he also talked about massive tariffs. He's not going to reduce the price of anything. He's going to increase the price of probably everything. And many other things he said. He's not going to accomplish most of what he promised. And as he fails to keep those promises, his popularity will suffer. People will turn against him. Not his cult, obviously. But his cult aren't anywhere near a majority. And he will lose popular support. And as we head into the midterms, and then if we can, do well in the midterms, as I think we will, Donald Trump will begin to lose his political power. But anyways, I don't want to get too far down the line there. The point is that Donald Trump's not going to be able to do a lot of what he has promised and what people are expecting. A lot of what he said also is just meaningless nothing, just designed to throw red meat to the Fox News audience. He talked about, executive order for making it the policy of the federal government that there's only two genders. That kind of crap, just pure nonsense. I mean, the fact that that's even being talked about in a presidential inaugural address, two genders, my God. Anyways, he's not going to be able to do most of what he has promised. And if we do our job well as an opposition, maybe we can wake up some of the American people to the mistake that they've made. Because ultimately, there's no silver bullet for turning this thing around. We've got to turn it around politically. And that means waking up our fellow Americans. The problem with them is that they're so breathtakingly stupid and unserious, so many of them. So it's going to be a challenge. But that's our job going forward, to preserve as much as we can so that we can secure political victory in the future and try to undo this damage. And that's what I'm going to try to help do here with this show, with my platform. I will try my best to keep you informed of those things I think are important and try to inspire you to fight for what we have and what we can do in the future. So, this sucks. It's a dark day. But there's always tomorrow, and we will continue the fight because we have to. We're not going to roll over for this clown, this wannabe fascist dictator and his moronic cult. We're not rolling over for them. We're not giving this all up for them. He won a tiny victory in the popular vote. He doesn't then get to take that and remake America as a fascist dictatorship. Not if we can help it. So that's my mission as I am assigning it to myself going forward. That's how I see my role here on this show. And I hope you will join me and tune in as I talk about these things going forward. So that's it. I wish you all the best, and I will talk to you again soon.